Achi, Jack Mano, Dina Umatoni, and Jules Mugabo. Let's give them all a round of applause. And we'll learn a lot more about them as the program goes on. Interfaith Works is a not-for-profit agency dedicated to affirming dignity, to building relationships and understanding among us all. And before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are on the territory of the Onondaga Nation, Council Fire of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. We acknowledge and are thankful for their stewardship of our environment in the past and at the present time. Tonight's theatrical performance is A Raisin in the Sun by Lorraine Hansberry and is directed by Timothy Douglas. It is a co-production with the Indiana Repertory Theater, so it comes here to us from Indianapolis. It's a powerful play about dreams sought for and deferred, and about the harsh realities of racism. And this is certainly a theme that resonates in an agency such as Interfaith Works. Tonight's event is held to help support the mission of Interfaith Works El Hindi Center for Dialogue. Tonight's invocation will be provided by Imam Mohammed El Fiqi, the Imam of the Islamic Society of Central New York, and a member of the Interfaith Works Roundtable of Faith Leaders. Imam, please.
Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you all doing today? Tonight. Thank you for coming. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent. In very few minutes, maybe 2-3 minutes, I would like to give you my understanding from Islam. I'm speaking as an imam now to what's going on tonight and the Racial Justice Award ceremony. And I believe my understanding from my Islam, I believe it will reflect same understanding of your own faiths, because I'm sure that all beliefs have same message. First, understand that God created men equally, and He said in Quran that we certainly have honored the children of Adam. And I believe every soul on this planet, having them a breath from the Almighty. No one has taken more or less, we're all the same in that. And from observation, we have different colors and races. And that takes me back to Quran. Allah says, "O people, we have created you from a male and a female, and we have made you into tribes and nations so you get to know one another." And in the other chapter, which is the Romans, or in Arabic, Ar-Rum, God said something like we should celebrate that diversity. He said in that verse, "And among His signs are the diversity of your colors and the variation in your languages. Indeed, these are signs for those who know." Can be translated for those who have knowledge. It's something to be celebrated. So I believe human, as our prophet said, are all from Adam from dust. So that color is the dust, but the soul inside, we're all from a breath, from the Almighty. Same God who created us all. With that being said, God's name is, in Islam, one of the names is the Just. And in one surah, chapter of the iron, He said, "We have sent messengers with clear evidence and with balance for people to know the difference or to weigh good and bad, with balance so people can maintain their affairs in justice." But justice, as again I understand from Quran, will not fall from the sky. it needs fine people to advocate it. And that's why God said in Quran, O you who believe, stand persistently firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it's against your own selves, or parents, or relatives. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, let not any one of you be, and the word he used in Arabic, ibma'a. It's very difficult to translate, but it's very much like go with the flow kind of a person, or yes person. He said, let not any one of you be that kind of yes person, to say if people are good, I'm good, if people are wrong, I'm wrong. But if people are good, you are good. If people are wrong, you should not be wrong. The people we're awarding tonight, and their likes everywhere, are those who chose not to be bystanders, and who chose to be active in a way, and to stand for what they think is right. And whatever award they are given, I believe the Almighty is awarding plentifully much more, 10, 100 million times, I don't know, but much, much more than that. Finally, Dr. King, I believe he once said, at the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but we will remember the silence of our friends. I understand that as a cry for everyone to be an advocate of what justice is. I take the hat off for those gentlemen and ladies awarded tonight, and I am sure that many more, could be everyone around tonight, having the same understanding and working with for the same mission, and having on the same path. Perhaps they haven't been noticed, but for sure the Almighty for sure will award all those who work for justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Imam El-Fiqi. We will now hear a few words from Beth Broadway, who is the Interfaith Works President and CEO, as we all know, also the 2010 Racial Justice Award honoree, and co-creator of the Community-Wide Dialogue. Beth.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Imam. Appreciate your kind words, your good words. So as we begin our ceremony here tonight, I also want to acknowledge that we stand on the land of the Onondaga Nation, the original people indigenous to this place. And as firekeepers of the Haudenosaunee people, the Onondagas have much to teach us about peace and reconciliation and the path to justice. I would like to acknowledge that among our guests tonight may be members of the Onondaga Nation who have come to recognize tonight's honorees with you, especially perhaps Jack Mano and Cindy Squillaci, who have been allies of the nation for many decades. Let me add my welcome to you all at this 18th Annual Racial Justice Awards project that Jim Clark actually started with us when he was the producing director here at Syracuse Stage and a member of our advisory board for the Dialogue program, which he went on to be the chair of as well. The first play we saw together in this cooperative partnership was, drumroll, Raisin in the Sun. And Jim was also was the first recipient of Interfaith Works' Racial Justice Award in 2006. So I think I would say that tonight's event brings us really full circle, doesn't it? Yes. I like circles. So he is now the Associate Dean of Syracuse University's College of Visual and Performing Arts. And we are very honored and proud to have Jim among us. We know that when people dip their toe in Interfaith Works, they never leave, so beware. But we appreciate this third year of your being our Master of Ceremonies, so thank you. So 18 years we've been hanging out here, and I'm reminded that the Hebrew number for life L'chaim is 18, right? And so tonight we're especially excited to have these honorees who are life givers, warriors for the cause of justice. I'm looking at you, Van, and Cindy, and Jack, and Jules, and Dina. And we will be hearing more about all of you in just a minute, but I wanted to add my deepest thanks for all you do. All you do. Now daily, I get to see the hard work of our staff and our board and our volunteers, working in the jails, working in the schools, working with refugees, working with elders, building bridges of understanding, speaking out against oppression, healing the wounds of war, and helping people start their lives over again, and giving hope. And I would like to have our board members and our staff and the volunteers and those of you that sit on the round table of faith leaders at Interfaith Works and serve as the moral voice of our organization, if you would kindly stand so that we can acknowledge you. And tonight, special thanks to Gwen Sanders and Karen Colenso. Where are they? I told you guys not to leave the room. So we can say thank you. And also Pete Wilner, who has toiled in the soil from the moment he arrived. He arrives at work at 6:45 and he doesn't leave until 7 because he's so committed. And he is the director of the El Hindi Center for Dialogue. And all of you put on this event for us, but Pete asked me especially to give you his regrets that he could not be with us tonight. He and his family had bought tickets a year ago to go on vacation, so we said, all right. As Jim said, tonight's event benefits the El Hindi Center for Dialogue, a project that promotes both respectful and courageous conversations across the many, many different sectors of our community and on many different topics. And the dialogues are crafted always with a racial equity lens. In other words, how do we look at systems and structures no matter what the topic is, and no matter who's involved, whether it's children or teenagers or community leaders or the police or just anybody across this 3-county area. How do we look at the world through a racial equity lens in order to raise our understanding and our consciousness about structural and institutional racism and the devastating and continuing effects of white privilege? And how do we build alliances across all of those differences? How do we do that? And that's what the dialogues are here to do, and we'll be here until we've done it. Maybe have a couple more years. Our goal is to have skin color and ethnicity and the nation of our origin or the ability to speak English or a choice of worship never again to be a reason why people should be discriminated against. Give me an amen. And we affirm the dignity of every person and every faith tradition, and your attendance tonight helps us do that by purchasing a ticket, and I've been told I have to plug the silent auction to help us keep our staff and our programs running, so thank you for that. I would be remiss if tonight I did not mention to you that one of our major services to this community is to settle and support the integration of refugees. And the Refugee Resettlement Program is effectively being strangled by our federal government. And over this year, with the bans on refugees and on Muslim countries, our nation is facing a crisis of consciousness. Our agency will continue to educate this community about the benefits of being a refugee resettlement city. And I will tell you, we have been extremely gratified by the support that we have received from this amazing community in telling that story and helping us keep the agency alive and the doors open to people who really need us to be here. So please stop by one of the tables after the play or during the intermission or right before. We do have some postcards that will help us educate and agitate our elected officials, so please do that. I thought it would be useful tonight, just as I close my remarks, to read to you our board's legacy statement about the times that we are living in right now. So it is a short statement, but I think it's a powerful one that is really helping to guide our work. Interfaith Works affirms the commitment to provide a new start for refugees who have lost their homelands, farms, families, and lives to war, political repression, environmental degradation, and genocide. We understand and accept that by settling refugees, this comes with sometimes organizational instability. Arrivals can be interrupted by geopolitical issues that are beyond our control, and this leaves the agency with the need to readjust and address uncertain and reduced funding. But our agency was founded to step into the breach of volatile and politically charged and often uncomfortable matters, as seen through our dedication to humanitarian service and our interfaith and ending racism dialogues. And we accept budgetary struggles in exchange for the courage and the affirmation of dignity for all that are hallmarks of our work. Our legacy lies with the people whose lives have been touched for the better. And our board adopted that statement at a point in our life when we thought we might have to do something very drastic in order to remain alive, if at all. And they have held to that throughout this year and will do so for the next 1,043 days. But who's counting? Our reason for being here tonight is to celebrate the accomplishments of powerful honorees who work tirelessly on racial and social equity, each in their own way. Their actions have helped to build our community and our society so that we can all benefit equitably and in the spirit of justice. We do not give the Lifetime Achievement Award every year, but Van, your life and your service warrant it. You remind me of the theme of our upcoming ILAB dinner, which is creating a civil community, and the ideas of equity and reciprocity embedded within the notions of a civil society. These realities are expressed tonight in the play, and they will drive us forward, I'm sure, to our own commitments to civil community. May we all measure up to you, Van, at some point in our lives.
Thank you.
On the other end of the spectrum are Jules and Dina, seeds of peace, high schoolers who are already world changers. Already there. Yes, you can clap. They have a lifetime before them, and they'll be here in a few decades for their Lifetime Achievement Award, right? And Jack and Cindy, such dear friends, who are almost old enough for the Lifetime Achievement Award. All of you are so deserving of this honor. Langston Hughes' poem Harlem gives us the title for tonight's play, a reminder that we must not live only for ourselves, but for each other. I'm going to read you this very short and poignant poem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? We are in tough times right now, but look around you and see who's here. And realize that we are in this together as a community. And together we create the civil society that makes equity possible. So to Van and to Cindy and to Jack and to Jules and to Dina, you are our heroes tonight. Thank you for not being silent. Now I'm going to turn this back over to Jim Clark.
Thank you, Beth. Shu Kai Chin, Chair of Interfaith Works Board of Directors, will provide a few comments. Shu Kai.
And I did hear a few, so. Yes, first of all, on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to thank all of you for being here, and I wish to thank the IFW Board of Directors, the Roundtable of Faith Leaders, the Faith Partners, the Executive Committee, Interfaith Works staff. Without none of this is possible, and particularly including the El Hindi Center for Dialogue and the volunteers and staff, because all of you make this work. And then Jim, thank you and Syracuse Stage again for your support tonight. So I'll say right away, to pick up on what Beth said, is that, this has been a hard year for the agency, and an agency our size could not continue to have such a large impact on Central New York without your support, without the support of the staff, and really everybody here. And so before I encourage you again to do the silent auction, but I want to say this, as a person who has sat on several boards and done a variety of things, the agency leadership has a clear eye into perceiving what's around us. And we have made the changes necessary to adapt and to be like water. Mizo no kokoro, or mind like the moon and mind like water. So when you insert your hand in the water, what happens? The water goes around and it flows in the direction and the destination it always had in mind. And that is this agency, and it is worthy of your continued support. And the resources that you have given us are well spent. So, of course, we're looking forward to a year where our programs continue to affirm dignity and build bridges of understanding, and we are grateful to you, and we are very grateful to you again for participating in our various fundraising activities. And so, please be generous, as always. All right, but I'd like to build upon Beth's remarks. As A Raisin in the Sun debuted in Broadway in 1959, and I think I was about 6 years old then, so that's how old I am. And the March on Washington, and that's the list of demands, occurred 4 years later. And I don't have to remind some people here what those demands are and their currency, and the fact that, some progress has been made. But I would submit that if we look around today and just turn on the news, we would see that many of these demands are very current, and they have meaning, and they speak to the work we have to do. So from my standpoint, and I think the standpoint of the staff and the board as well, at the core of these demands is dignity, and the need to affirm dignity with actions and not just words. I'll say this, friends, every time has its challenges. My father came to this country in 1930 at age 9 by himself. He was a World War II veteran, served in the American Army on the front in China, and only after that was he granted citizenship. His story is not unlike many stories today, and many people who have walked similar paths. And they will be denied if we are not vigilant. Now, the wonderful thing about challenges is this. While worrisome, they serve to burn away the trivial and force us to focus on the fundamentals. And fundamentally, I know this, that what makes us Americans is not blood and it's not soil, and it is not a loyalty pledge to the commander-in-chief. It is a loyalty pledge to uphold the Constitution and the principle of equal rights and equal protection for all. And it is about creating a society that affirms dignity. And that's what is central to this agency, and central to, I think, all of our hearts tonight. And I want to say that all of our honorees uphold this pledge with much more than thoughts and prayers. All due respect to those of us who think and pray. But they stand, and they take a stand, and they engage the world by their words and actions. They are out there, and by being out there, you all inspire us to take a stand and do our part in affirming dignity daily. So, without further ado, please join me in applauding our honorees again, and I'll turn it over.
Thank you, Shukai. Our major sponsors for tonight, and we just want to thank them, are both Syracuse Stage and Wegmans. So we want to say thank you to them. Also, in your program, you will see all the list of the silent auction donors, so we want to thank them. We particularly want to recognize Reverend Ronald Bill, Shukai Chen, Rosie and Reverend Leon Oakes Lee, Louise Magnarelli, and all of you who've contributed above the ticket price in support of the El Hindi Center for Dialogue. Also, I'd like to announce that each of our honorees will be receiving certificates of recognition from Congressman John Katko and Assemblywoman Pamela Hunter, and we want to thank both the Congressman and the Assemblywoman for acknowledging the work of tonight's honorees. So we want to say thank you to them. Our first honoree is Dina Umatoni. Dinah. Dinah came to the United States with her mother from Democratic Republic of Congo. She's a tireless advocate to improve her school and her community. She campaigned with her fellow students at Henniger High School on the 2 Miles is Too Far campaign to advocate for more equitable transportation for all Syracuse students. She's an active member of the Syracuse Seeds of Peace, where high school students engage in peace-building activities in their school, with other schools, and in their community. She organizes fellow students to present their diverse countries and cultures to promote understanding and appreciation across the Henniger community. Finally, she's one of the few Syracuse students to be invited to a second year of Seeds of Peace Leadership Camp. Beth, would you join me? And Dinah, would you please come forward to accept the Interfaith Works 2018 Racial Justice Award.
Greetings everyone, my name is Dinah Montoni. A very special thanks to Interfaith Works for selecting me. I'm deeply honored to receive this award. I also wanted to thank the Seeds of Peace community. Being a Seed has helped me grow in so many ways. Seeds has given me the opportunity to meet people from different cultures and backgrounds. Although the dialogues were a bit challenging, I decided to challenge myself, and I'm glad I did because it was worth it. Being a part of Seeds of Peace community has helped me step out of my comfort zone and challenge myself to speak up and become more involved in my school. I learned that my voice matters and the importance of learning to see things from another person's point of view. I'm really glad and thankful that I got this chance to become a part of this remarkable family. I also want to thank my extended family and friends for always supporting me and being here this evening. But most of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to give back and serve this community. Thank you, and it is a pleasure to receive this award.
Thank you, Donna. Our next honoree is Jules Mugabo. He has worked tirelessly to ameliorate social conditions and change societal norms and prejudice through inter-school and police-community dialogue activities. He advocates for social justice through poetry, performance, actions, and protests. He's proud of recently presenting at the Syracuse Board of Education to advocate for Seeds of Peace, and is currently president of Seeds of Peace Club at Henniger High School. At Henniger, he maintains a spot on the honor roll and competes in track and field. Jules moved here from the Congo 3 years ago and has been giving back to his new community ever since. Beth, again, would you join me in presenting the Interfaith Works Racial Justice Youth Award to Jules?
1, 2, 1, 2. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, okay, then I'll just substitute into it. Alright, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jules, and I'm from the Republic of Congo, which is a small country in Central Africa. When I was in Congo Brazzaville, I did not know all of the other problems that the other world experienced, the new world. When I came to the United States, it was when I was exposed to all these different stuff. And so I wanted to make a change into my community, to make it so that I like what I was saying, to make it so that the racism, all of these other bad stuff that was happening here would stop. And so I got involved into all of these different organizations. I got involved with the Seeds of Peace, Interfaith Works, to work for social justice. I did not actually know that it was going to meet me here tonight, so I can't express my feelings in words to see you all here tonight to support me. So first and foremost, I would like to thank the Interfaith Works organization for supporting me, but also for teaching me the ways of America, for teaching me what racism was, what was the stereotypes, and also how to work within the society for non-violence in order to promote social justice. I would also like to thank the Seeds of Peace organization for all the dialogues and all the communities that they have done at my school. For all those parties, I got involved with different people of various background, where I got to see all of the different perspectives, and so how we will get along together. I also thank all of my friends for just always supporting me, although they might be a little, but you know. So yeah, for that. But last but not least, I would like to thank all of you here tonight for your continuous support. Because without you here, I will be talking to empty chairs. So,
Thank you, Jules. Our next honorees are a couple. I think the first couple honored together, Cindy Squatchy and Jack Mano. Life and activist partners, they have devoted much of their lives to advocating for multiple peace and justice causes, ending racism, environmental responsibility, and human-based economics. They are well known and respected for their long-time deep and broad work with the neighbors of the Onondaga Nation and as allies to Native people everywhere, although their ending racism work extends far beyond this. Jack, a retired professor from SUNY ESF, works and writes extensively about indigenous values and environmental decisions. He's also a key organizer of the Onondaga Land Rights and our Common Future educational series held at Syracuse Stage. He's also a member of the Educational Collaborative at the Great Law of Peace Center and helped to found the Center for Native People and the Environment at the SUNY ESF. Cindy is a recently retired social work and grief counselor, and her career spans hospice sudden infant death syndrome program, educating CNY about racial disparities and infant mortality. She's most recently worked with teens in the Syracuse City High School. Both Cindy and Jack continue to teach and advocate, educating communities to understand that our homes, agencies, and businesses here in CNY are on Onondaga land, and that we have a responsibility to honor the people who are still here. Beth, again, will you please join me in presenting the Interfaith Works Racial Justice Award to Cindy and Jack. You want to say a couple words?
Yes. We are each going to say a few words. I wrote mine down because I was a little nervous about this. And there's so many things to say. Thank you for the opportunity to gather here as this community to acknowledge the path that we are all committed to walking together to end racism in all of its guises. Whether it's systemic racism that is so deep and thorough, it allows many of us to believe that we live in a just and equal society, or to the racism that exists in our unwilling minds, still affected by white privilege. Before going any further, we want to give thanks to the bounty of Mother Earth, who gives us all that we all need to sustain life. Also, thanks to the people, all of the people, who have forged deep, strong, and resilient and caring connections to each other, despite intentional barriers of racial and social injustices that were erected to keep us divided from each other. Thank you all for believing in human connection. So many things to speak with you about concerning racial justice. One of the most complicated challenges in our world, every part of our world it affects today. The simple part is understanding that greed created racism. I'll say that again. Greed created racism. And greed, fear, and ignorance perpetuate it. That's the simple part, is understanding that. The hard part is how do we get rid of that? As white United States citizens, Jack and I still have much to learn in our hearts and minds about how our privilege affects the world around us. Grappling with our own white privilege is not for the faint of heart. Any of you who are tackling this know this. But this is the work that is needed from us and our white counterparts if we are to move forward together with justice for all of our children and our children's children. I wanted to end my piece with a saying that my team, I also went to Seeds of Peace, had the privilege of doing that. And this is a saying that my team at Seeds of Peace loved over the summer, and I remember it always, and that is that justice is love made public. I'm grateful and honored to be getting this award and to be walking this path with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I am blessed to be able to collaborate with the Onondaga Nation over the past 30 years. Some of these projects must be the reason I am getting this award with Cindy, my remarkable life and love partner. Thank you, Interfaith Works. What an honor. My Onondaga friends, some of who are here tonight, are generally suspicious of recognition and awards. After all, doing what is right, doing what the Creator has in mind for you, is just what you do. Anyone who is looking for recognition and honor in this way is suspicious. Stay clear. I have learned so many lessons from my Haudenosaunee friends. My colleagues and co-conspirators about how to be a human being, how to cultivate the good mind. I am profoundly grateful for the privilege of learning from you, my Onondaga friends. I was in Brazil in 1992 at the first Earth Summit, the UN Conference on Environment and Development, the largest gathering of heads of state in the history of the world at that time. Around the edges and occasionally in the halls was a delegation of native leaders, not fully recognized as heads of sovereign indigenous nations. But they were on the outskirts of all the meetings, and who was leading this contingent but Oran Lions of Onondaga? When I came back home, I was asked by Audrey Shenandoah, another renowned Onondaga teacher, to help out with an environmental crisis at Onondaga. This led to organizing scientists to sample and characterize locations on the Onondaga territory that had been subject to illegal dumping of toxic materials from outside the territory. Once I had to report on the result of the sampling, as I stood in front of the community to talk about the level of contaminants, I was imagining the 500 years since the European invasion began. Somehow the Onondaga survived it all. They are still here, with their stories, their songs, their ceremonies, their love and connection to the land, their longhouse, their language, their gardens. I thought to myself, if these people thrive, the world is going to be okay. And some 25 years later, there are many signs that the Onondaga Nation is thriving, even if it is constant struggle. They fought for their school and they won. They resisted fracking and they won. They are revitalizing native food and agriculture. They fought for justice in our courts and lost, but they have not given up. They worked with others to create the Scano Great Law of Peace Center, and make sure you get out there. It's at the same location as the old French fort or St. Marie among the Iroquois, and it's a remarkable opportunity to learn. They hosted the first major international sports tournament on indigenous land. Their representatives led the successful effort to adopt the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. They continued to fight for a comprehensive cleanup of Onondaga Lake, and so much more. I'd like to ask all of you to join at least the e-newsletter of the Neighbors of Onondaga Nation, Noon. Look it up online. And get involved in supporting the Onondaga Nation. We live on their territory. It's the least we can do. And by the way, I am somehow going to share this award with my dear friend, Chief Irving Paulus Jr. I do believe he's playing the Creator's game on the other side.
Thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Jack. Our final honoree of the evening is the Honorable Van Robinson. Van Robinson has been a lifelong champion of civil rights, workers' rights, gender rights, and education in safe, modern schools, and a vocal advocate for socially and environmentally correct development. His political activism began in 1968 when he moved to Syracuse, New York from the Bronx. His political career began when the late Mayor Lee Alexander appointed Van to the City of Syracuse's Board of Zoning Appeal. In 1999, he was appointed by Mayor Matt Driscoll to fill a vacant Common Council seat And during the next election, he ran for the seat and served on the council just through last year. In 2009 and 2015, he won 4-year terms as president of the Syracuse Common Council. He has won 5 citywide elections and formerly served as chair of the Democratic 12th Ward Committee and the 5th Ward Committee. And in 2011, he won the Democrat of the Year award. His service to the city of Syracuse extends beyond the Common Council. He serves on a number of community boards, commissions, and associations such as the Elmcrest Children's Center Board of Advisors, the Joint Construction School Board, and Focus Greater Syracuse. Beth, would you join me in presenting the Interfaith Works Racial Justice Lifetime Achievement Award to Van Robinson.
Good evening, everyone. And I want to give special thanks to the Interfaith members, their chairs, and also their officers. But I understand you to say, Beth, that Peter wasn't here. Well, when he asked if I would accept, I told him yes. He says only on one condition, that I remember the KISS theory, and that's keep it short, simple, and sit down. You know, as I go through the program and I look back, and I said, my gosh, 1976 was when Interfaith actually began as Interfaith. In the city when I came here, Jews did not visit Protestants, Protestants didn't visit Catholics, Catholics didn't visit they didn't visit anybody. Well, a group of us attempted to turn that around. And out of it came the dialogue circles. And I remember the first time the presentation was made, and I laughed and I said, are you going to get these people together to sit down for dialogue? If you do that, I'll be a fan of yours forever. So I guess it's forever. And you know, I told my wife, Linda Brown Robinson, who serves on the duck race committee, and she says, well, you're no longer going to be an elected official. I said, yes, that's correct. So I said, well, would you volunteer? On one condition, and not wear that duck outfit. It's, you know, it's been a relatively short time to me. When we came together, I remember being at some of the homes, some of the churches, talking very, very candidly to each other, and saying something has to be done. Well, we haven't reached that point yet. But by God, I believe if we continue as we are doing now, that we will eventually reach that point where I look upon each man, each one, we look at them as brothers and sisters under all of the faiths. There isn't a Bible or Quran or the Jewish, what's the Jewish? That says anything but we are brothers and sisters in the eyes of God. And that's where we should remain, and hopefully will always be brothers and sisters under the eyes of God. Thank you so very, very much. And also else I'll tell you about Jim. I said to him, I'm going to use his bio. And I said, a bio? I said, what does it look like, a file? And I said, it looks like a campaign, a campaign slogan. And he says, well, if you want to try it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Van. I'd now like to introduce the Artistic Director of Syracuse Stage and our host for this evening, Bob Hupp.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening. And welcome to Syracuse Stage, and welcome to our first preview performance of Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun. We are honored that you're here tonight, because we are honored to have all of you here with us. Your organization is so significant to our community, and even though I've only been in this community 2 years, I've come to appreciate the importance of what you do and the good works that you do. And so we are honored that you're here tonight. And we're particularly honored that you're here to share with us this first performance of A Raisin in the Sun, which Lorraine Hansberry wrote 60 years ago, which is hard to believe. It is both wonderful and sad at the same time that the relevance of this play is as important today as it was when Lorraine Hansberry wrote it so many years ago. You know, A Raisin in the Sun is a play about the meaning of home and the importance of home to a sense of family. And I think that's so important with you and with your work. And so it's a wonderful honor to welcome you to Syracuse Stage and to this special performance of A Raisin in the Sun. Thank you very much for all that you do, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Bob. We'd like to give just one more round of applause for all of our honorees. Thank you. Our benediction tonight will be provided by Matt Waldby. He is the Chaplain Program Coordinator for the Rescue Mission and a member of the Interfaith Works Roundtable of Faith Leaders. Matt.
Good evening. I also wrote some of my thoughts down to keep it simple and short. I was warned on time. I recently brought a group of the men that I work with to see the new Marvel movie Black Panther. And yeah, we haven't seen it yet, definitely see it. Without giving anything away, there was an underlying theme of the movie that struck me as important for us to reflect on and remember. Unless we are conscious and aware of what is stirring in our hearts, we risk becoming like the oppressor and continue the cycle of resentment and hate. This political atmosphere we all find ourselves in has brought some things to the surface, hasn't it? Things that, for all intents and purposes, have been lingering there beneath a beautiful humanity for far too long. Things that, while I find appalling and abysmal, are a part of the humanity I claim to love. And if I'm going to love that same humanity, I have to be aware of who I'm choosing to love. I believe we must all find a space at this table of mankind. In the cries of so many who feel neglected and unheard lies 1,000 more voices crying out for justice. If we don't find a seat at that table, neither voice will be heard. If we won't listen to why someone hates, they won't listen to why we love. And no healing will ever take place. In the words of T'Challa, the Black Panther, we will work to be an example of how we as brothers and sisters on this earth should treat each other. Now, more than ever, the illusions of division threaten our very existence. We all know the truth that more connects us than separates us. But in times of crisis, the wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers. We must find a way to look after one another as if we were one single tribe. So tonight, may we see the better angels of our nature. May we see that we are made in the perfect image and likeness of love. May we choose a place at the table of our humanity to listen to the voices and stories that are hard to hear. May we find a way to look after one another. May we use the harshness of our discouragements to fuel a greater passion of hope, progress, and unity. May we, in the spirit of love and goodness, be inventive in our hospitality to each other, creating new ways of building those bridges and exposing our deeper connections as a part of this beautiful human family. In grace and peace. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So thank you everyone for attending tonight's ceremony and for recognizing these amazing individuals. They certainly are an inspiration to us all. So everybody, the silent tape auction tables are still here. The performance starts at 7:30 and we are complete. And we will ask the honorees to come up for a picture. Thank you very much and have a nice evening.